Over the last couple years, independent animation has really been on the rise. While back in the day major studios like Disney and Pixar had the animation game on lock, the success of online shows like Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel have shown independent creators that it's not only possible to walk into the world of animation, but it's also possible to succeed and take over. And with the power of the internet, a lot of these independent projects really get an organic boost of fans that major companies wish they could get. Which leads me to the internet's newest obsession, the Amazing Digital Circus. Created by YouTuber Goosework and produced by Glitch Productions, to say this show blew up almost instantly would be an understatement, as the pilot's only been out for 2 months and already sits at 181 million views, which of course I'm probably about a good 10 of those. It's good, like really good. Go watch it. But in all seriousness, this might actually be one of the fastest rising independent projects I've ever seen. The only one that actually comes the closest is Has Been Hotel, and even with that show it still wasn't to the same degree. But as you might guess, with the explosion of the Amazing Digital Circus came a large, and I do mean large, online following. TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, I couldn't escape this show if I tried to. As well as the many of its fans saying that it's the greatest show to ever be put out. And you know, I don't know how I feel about that one. But despite its popularity and despite only having a pilot episode out at the moment, I'm noticing two very big problems surrounding the Amazing Digital Circus, which may cause the show's downfall before it even gets a chance to really shine. So it's pretty obvious whenever something starts to take off and get its own fandom, there's always a subsection of fans that become overly obsessed with the IP. And I've seen this happen with borderline everything, from shows to video games. If it's popular and you could talk about it online, best believe somebody in the world's made it their personality. And it's not really a problem when fans are making the 1 hour why you should watch video, or even when a character from a show is their profile picture on social media. I think we can all agree those are two pretty healthy examples of a fan supporting a show. But what I'm talking about is when a fan becomes borderline toxic for a show. They'll swear wholeheartedly that this is the best thing that's ever aired and nothing will ever come close to it in life. On the computer for hours arguing with random people on Discord why this is the greatest piece of media to ever drop. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with defending something you like. I think we've all done that at one point in time or another. Still to this day, I am the biggest Jujutsu Kaisen defender. But in the case of the Amazing Digital Circus, what I've been seeing from a certain section of the fans over the span of only 2 months is actually insane. Because a lot of these fans are becoming the definition of toxic. Going as far as to attack people who say that they don't like the Amazing Digital Circus or that they think it's just an okay show. And you know it's bad when the actual creator of the show has to come out online and address these actions from the fans. Which is one thing I can say Gooseworks deserves a ton of respect for. Because the amount of creators with toxic fan bases ready to go to war at anybody who makes a comment about their series is way more common than you might think. One Piece. And the toxicity from this side of the fanbase doesn't stop at people who don't like or don't praise this show, but it even goes as far as the toxic fans attacking one another, and for the dumbest reasons I might add. One of the biggest I've seen is that certain fans are getting outraged at other fans for shipping certain characters in the show together, which has always been one of the craziest things for me to understand. Because I can understand you liking and appreciating a show. I can even understand you resonating with certain characters. But I have never understood the logic of fans getting mad at other fans for imagining fake relationships for cartoon characters in their heads. And it seems like I'm not the only one, because once again the creator had to come out and address this toxic side of the fan base. When asked, what do you think about people shipping Jax and Pomni, two of the characters from the show, Gooseworks responded by saying, people can ship whatever they want, that doesn't mean it's going to be canon or anything, but I believe in letting people have their fun. The biggest thing I want this fandom not to do is to get toxic and volatile towards each other for dumb reasons. It is just a silly internet cartoon after all. And you know, with a response like this, you would think this would be everybody's logic towards this situation. But it's actually crazy to think about that for certain people watching this show, the creator has to literally come out and say, hey, no, harassing people is bad. And I just really hope that this side of the fandom completely changes and gets better. Because make no mistake, this is not all fans of this show. Like I said before, this is just a small subsection. But the problem with small subsections is that they are normally the most visible and most vocal. And with the creator having to reach out and talk about this side of the fan base only after a pilot episode, I just really hope this doesn't turn into a situation where Gooseworks starts hating the people who's supporting their project and they end up dropping it altogether. So in my first point, I talked about how people become overly obsessed with something when it becomes really popular. But there's also an opposite effect that I've seen far too often, especially when it comes to animated projects. And from what I've seen, the people who don't fall into the overly obsessed category or even the normal fan slot, they actually end up hating these projects whether they've watched it or not, which oftentimes leads to a large wave of overhate. And I really think the Amazing Digital Circus is falling victim to this same curse. Because like I said before, this show shot to popularity in waves that we have never seen before for an independent project. But over the 2 months that it's been out, I've seen nothing but slander and narratives build up around this show, with some people saying it's an industry plant, which makes absolutely no sense because that word just gets thrown around everywhere these days. Not to mention, I've also seen people hating on the show on Twitter just to find other people who hate the show. And on top of that, a large majority of the haters have never seen this show before and refuse to watch this show because of the fans. And you're probably wondering, is it because of the annoying fans saying that this is the best thing to ever air on the internet? Or is it because of the crazy fans who are attacking people saying that they don't like the show? Well, you'll be crazy to find out that it's actually because of neither. It's because there is another subsection of crazy digital circus fans that are just straight up drawing non-stop self-made about the show. And when I say non-stop, I mean non-stop. Like, this is actually ridiculous. I genuinely can't even try to justify this in any way or make logic of it. And it really got so bad to the point where Gooseworks came out again on Twitter addressing this. Because as silly as this situation sounds, this has really deterred a lot of people who might have been interested in the show away from the show because they see the weird things that the crazy fans are posting and doing. You have to remember, this isn't an adult show. I wouldn't say it was specifically made for kids, but it was definitely made for a wider audience, as opposed to something like Has Been Hotel that has an R rating. So if you hop on social media and you're seeing all this inappropriate art and videos posted about this show, it's probably going to deter you from the fans and the show as a byproduct, which has left many people joining the hate bandwagon towards Digital Circus. But even with the crazy fans and the hate wave that this show has been riding for the last couple months, I genuinely hope that none of this actually stops the success of this show. I said in the beginning of the video, I really liked the pilot episode, and I wasn't kidding. Everything about it was completely up my alley. For one, every character had a completely different and unique design, which is something I always appreciate, especially when it comes to animation. Then I also really enjoyed the concept of the show. Now, I'm not going to get into any spoilers. You could check out the show yourself if you want to know more. But I just think the plot, especially during the pilot episode, left a lot of room for a lot of different ideas to be explored throughout season 1 and more seasons going forward. I also really enjoyed that the episode was able to have so many different feelings throughout it. It was able to convey happiness that you would get from going to something like a circus in one scene, and then completely switch the mood of the show to despair in the next. And there was always a layer of mystery and uncertainty about the world of the Amazing Digital Circus, as well as its characters throughout the whole episode. It really reminded me of something like Gravity Falls that wasn't necessarily scary, but always felt like something was going on in the background, and that there was always a mystery to uncover. Oh, and the voice actors, bro, top tier. I think a lot of people really underestimate how much of a skill voice acting really is, because I didn't ran across some independent projects where the voice actors were absolutely terrible. Projects where the voices didn't sound like anything any living person with emotion would actually sound like. But the voice acting cast for this show was really solid, especially the voice actors for Pomni and Jax. Now, was this show a complete masterpiece as some people are trying to say? No, it wasn't. And that's perfectly fine because it was only a pilot episode. And more than likely, the creator themselves knows there's certain things that needs to be polished up for this show to be the best it can be. But I highly suggest, if you haven't already, you check out the Amazing Digital Circus, because it might just go on to be one of the best animated projects on the entire internet. But once again, I appreciate you checking out another video. Please leave a like to help support the channel and help push the content out to more and more amazing people. And also check out my TikTok, where I talk about all things animation, from anime all the way to things like we talked about today, the Amazing Digital Circus. And until then, it's been your boy CornXV, and I'm off this.
Up in this tank, yeah, it's over. Turn on bus master like cover. Pull up in Rovers, it's over. Bitch, I'm cheese sauce, so this cold. Llama, it can't want no host. Bottle, what can't let me pour. High as fun, just like a flow. Wanna glow, let me show you. VloneThugs. I don't need no